Welcome back. I'm Joe.
Hey. Wow, it feels like ages, right?
It really does. Good to be back.
Yeah, definitely. Man, those fill-in hosts we had, I heard they were like a massive hit.
Uh-huh. Too good? Yeah.
Right? Probably spilling all our secrets, making us sound way more organized than we actually are. You know how it is.
Yeah. Sounds like our little break maybe got people wondering, maybe they like the substitutes too much.
Kidding.
Mostly. Mostly kidding, yeah. But honestly, a little time off. It really does recharge the batteries.
Needed that. But hey, we're back in the hot seats now, ready to face the music.
The music.
You know, all that lovely listener feedback, the good, the bad, the whole shebang.
Right? Always good to hear what people think.
Which actually leads us kind of perfectly into what we're diving deep into today, inner strength and mindset shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, life can feel like one big obstacle course sometimes, right? Like the universe is just singling you out.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling that things are personal, it's so common. And it's really a crucial thing to talk about.
Yeah.
We tend to take difficulties and like interpret them as these direct hits on our self-worth, you know?
Exactly.
And that's precisely where understanding how to shift our mindset comes in. It's not about dodging problems.
Right. You can't avoid everything.
No. It's about navigating them without letting them completely derail us internally.
Totally. It's about those times when you feel like you're just constantly getting knocked down. So our goal today is to kind of figure out how to understand these challenges, adjust our perspective, and ultimately accept them, but not in a like, I give up way.
No. More like,
okay, this happened. What can I learn? And how do I come back stronger?
Yeah.
That kind of way.
Right. It's about recognizing that how we react inside to what happens outside. Well, that's actually a choice.
Even when it really doesn't feel like it in the moment.
Especially then.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the big question we want you to kind of mull over today. How does a simple mindset shift? Like, let's say you knew you might face, 24 rejections before landing some huge deal. How does knowing that change how you feel about that very first no?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, let's zero in on that rejection sting for a second, because it can really mess with you, right?
I really can.
But what we're looking at here, based on our sources, is that the pain from a no, that kind of gut punch you feel, it isn't just about the rejection itself. It's often the story we tell ourselves after the no that really does the damage.
That's the core idea. We add the emotional weight to these events. Like a rejected proposal doesn't automatically mean I'm not good enough.
But that's where our minds go, isn't it? So often.
Instantly. Or, a critical comment at work. We jump to, oh, they must look down on me.
Yeah, or being ignored, even if it's totally accidental, can feel like, wow, I guess I'm just not worth their time.
Exactly. It's like we're lugging around this extra backpack filled with negative interpretations.
Totally. But here's the cool part, right? Once you realize you're the one loading up that backpack, you also have the power to take it off. Or at least take some stuff out. We can kind of disassemble that pain by questioning those quick, harsh judgments we make about ourselves.
And it's helpful to remember that even those, not so great feelings, they're trying to tell us something.
Like little messengers.
Yeah, think of them like messengers.
Yeah.
But just because you get a message doesn't mean you have to, sign for it and believe everything it says.
Right, you don't have to immediately act on it.
Exactly. You can read the message, figure out what triggered it, and then decide how you want to respond. You're in control.
This makes me think about how we view the world generally. Instead of seeing it as this hostile place that's out to get us, we can try shifting to see it more as a growth zone where challenges are just opportunities to level up your mental game.
That's exactly that example we mentioned, facing 24 rejections for a big investment. That's a perfect growth zone mindset in action. Each no isn't some personal defeat.
It's just data.
It's just one step closer to that eventual yes. It's progress.
Right. And our sources give us a great way to frame this. Instead of thinking, they're out to get me, they hate my idea.
Yeah, that negative spiral.
The mindset shift is realizing, hey, wait a sec. They're probably reacting based on their own stuff. Their own pressures, their biases, whatever it is.
And it likely has very little to do with me personally or my overall worth.
Huge distinction.
It is. Or take that feeling, am I not good enough after a rejection? The shift is understanding, okay, they rejected the thing, the proposal, the product.
Not me as a human being.
Exactly. Not you. That difference is massive for your self-esteem.
And this one gets me. Instead of getting stuck in that, why does this bad stuff always happen to me? kind of pity party.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. The shift is seeing every setback as, like, mental exercise. Like, okay, another chance to toughen up my mind, build some resilience.
Like mental fitness training.
Yeah. I'm basically training for the mental Olympics here, something like that.
And for those of us who really, really hate rejection, this thought can be a game changer. Okay, the people who reject me, they're actually kind of helping me out.
How so?
Well, they're forcing me to face reality sooner.
Right.
And adjust my path more quickly if something's not working.
Yeah.
It's about finding the upside, even in the negative stuff.
Finding the silver lining. Now, our sources are really clear, though, that feeling sad or disappointed, totally normal.
Absolutely. It's not about becoming some, like, unfeeling robot.
Right. It's just about keeping those feelings in perspective, understanding they're probably temporary, and they don't define your whole journey.
Precisely. And a big part of navigating those feelings and developing that bigger picture perspective is building your inner strength.
So you're not always looking outside for approval to feel okay about yourself.
Exactly. That constant need for external validation, it's exhausting. And honestly, it never really satisfies in the long run.
Okay, so how do we build this, like, inner fortress? Our sources give us some really practical stuff.
Yeah, there's some good actionable advice.
One that really stands out is keeping a gratitude journal, which sounds kind of simple, maybe even cheesy to some.
I know what you mean.
But just writing down, say, 3 things you're grateful for each day, even tiny stuff, like a good cup of coffee or the sun shining, that can really shift your focus towards the positive things already in your life.
That's a great starting point. Simple, accessible. Another powerful tool is creating your own, like, personal principles or beliefs.
Yeah.
Maybe even mantras.
Your internal compass.
Yeah, exactly. These are like your internal guideposts. So having a saying you repeat to yourself, like every no gets me closer to a yes, can be super helpful when things inevitably don't go your way.
That makes sense. And this is a big one for me. Trying really hard not to overthink how other people are reacting to you.
Oh, the mind-reading trap.
Totally. You know, someone gives you a weird look or doesn't reply to an email right away, and your brain just goes into overdrive thinking it's something you did wrong. 80% of the time, someone else's mood or their behavior, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. They've got their own stuff going on.
That is such a freeing thought, isn't it? Just releasing that burden.
It really is.
And finally, there's this idea of taking action even when you don't feel like it.
Oh, yeah, the motivation struggle.
Right. We often wait for motivation to strike, especially when we're feeling down or rejected. But the strategy here is kind of flipping it. Just start doing something, anything productive, and let the good feelings follow the action.
Momentum builds motivation.
Exactly. Momentum can be a really powerful mood booster.
Okay, so let's talk about when those rejections and failures do happen, because, let's be real, they will.
Part of life, part of growth.
Our sources talk about something called psychological distance. I like the sound of that.
Me too. It's basically about creating a little bit of emotional space between you and the negative event.
Why? What does that do?
It helps you see it more clearly, more objectively, and it reduces that internal stress and conflict. You're not so wrapped up in the immediate emotion.
Okay, so how do you do that? How do you create distance?
Well, one way is thinking about time distance. So you imagine looking back at this event, say, a year from now.
Right.
Ask yourself, will it still feel as huge and catastrophic as it does right now? Often, just that perspective shift helps us realize many setbacks are actually temporary bumps.
That's a good trick. I can see how that would work.
Another cool one is taking a friend's perspective.
Like, what advice would you give a friend?
Exactly. Imagine your best friend came to you with the exact same problem you're facing. What would you tell them? It's usually way easier to be rational, kind, and constructive when you're looking at it from the outside in.
That's so true. We're often much harder on ourselves.
We really are. And look, this isn't just like wishful thinking. There's research behind it. A 2024 report actually linked psychological resilience directly to experiencing more positive emotions and having better coping skills when facing setbacks.
So creating that emotional distance is a key part of building that resilience.
Precisely.
Okay, so here's something practical you listening can try. When you're feeling really down or overwhelmed about something, take a minute, grab a pen, write down what you honestly think the impact of this event will be in 1 year.
Okay.
And then ask yourself, is this truly worth the amount of mental and emotional energy I'm spending on it right now?
Ooh, that's a really powerful question. Puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
And it connects nicely to this other idea called behavioral activation.
Behavioral activation. Sounds fancy.
It just means that when we get stuck in a negative loop after something bad happens, ruminating, feeling low energy, taking any kind of action, even a small one, can help break that cycle.
Like just getting moving.
Yeah. Our sources even mentioned a specific article suggesting that simple things like just going for a walk, making that gratitude list we talked about, or even tackling a small chore like cleaning your desk can actually help you feel more capable and motivated again after a setback. It interrupts the negativity.
The key seems to be setting really small, achievable goals.
Right.
Not trying to solve everything at once.
Exactly. It could be as simple as tidying one corner of your room, calling a friend you haven't spoken to in a while, or spending just 5 minutes learning something new online.
Just get started.
Just start, even if it's only for 5 minutes. That initial action often builds momentum, making the next step feel easier.
And there was that Harvard study you mentioned, right, about meaningful activities.
Yeah, from June 2024. It highlighted how engaging in things that feel meaningful to you, like volunteering, learning a new skill, working on a hobby, can really boost your resilience, especially against feeling isolated or rejected.
So it's about finding purpose and connection outside of whatever area you faced the difficulty in.
It's exactly. Broadening your focus.
Okay. So all of this really leads to changing how we fundamentally see rejection and failure, doesn't it?
It has to. Instead of thinking they're these, like, final verdicts on our worth or ability.
Right, like a big red fail stamp.
Yeah. We need to start seeing them as just data points, pieces of information.
Information. How?
Well, they tell us what worked, what didn't work, maybe where our approach needs tweaking. It helps us shift from feeling like a victim of circumstances
to having more of a growth mindset, being proactive.
Exactly. Taking ownership.
I love that story about Frank Herbert, the author of Dune. You know, that book apparently got rejected, like 22 times?
Something like that, yeah. 22 times before it finally got published and became this massive sci-fi classic. That's a lot of not yets.
Seriously. It really shows that rejection is often just feedback, right? It's not necessarily a judgment on you, but information that can help you refine your approach, your product, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Keep moving forward. See rejection as not yet, not never.
Precisely. And a really practical tip related to this is keeping a rejection log.
A rejection log? Sounds kind of depressing.
Maybe. But hear me out. Write down the details of each rejection, who it was from, when, any feedback you received, and most importantly, what you learned from it.
Okay. Why?
Looking back at this log over time can help you see patterns, track how you're improving your approach, and really internalize that rejection is just a normal, expected part of the process toward success for almost everyone. It demystifies it.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, I like that. Now, building on this idea of being prepared for setbacks, our sources introduce this concept of a psychological first aid kit.
Yes, I love this analogy too.
It's like having a toolkit ready to go for when you inevitably get an emotional scrape or bruise.
Exactly. It's about being proactive with your self-care, not waiting until you're already in crisis mode.
So what goes in this kit?
Well, one source suggested it could include things like specific mindfulness exercises you find calming, a list of positive affirmations or self-compassion statements that resonate with you.
Okay.
And, really importantly, a short list of supportive people, friends, family, maybe a mentor you can call when you need to talk things through.
Gotcha. So, actionable advice for you listening. Take some time, maybe this week, to actually put together your own psychological first aid kit.
Do it.
Make a list of activities that genuinely help you relax or feel better. Write down some encouraging phrases you can say to yourself when you're feeling down. And identify maybe 2 or 3 trusted people you can reach out to. Have this ready before you need it.
And the science backs this approach up. A recent study showed that using tools from mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, can really help build resilience, especially during stressful periods. Having those coping mechanisms ready makes a huge difference.
It's really interesting, isn't it, how going through rejection, as unpleasant as it is, can actually make you stronger in the long run.
It seems counterintuitive, but yeah, dealing with it successfully using these kinds of strategies seems to build real inner toughness and adaptability.
Like building a muscle.
Exactly.
Okay, this next one might sound a little weird, but our sources even suggest that, trying to get rejected in small ways can actually be helpful.
Yeah, the rejection therapy idea. It sounds counterintuitive for sure.
But the idea is, like, getting used to hearing no in low-stakes situations so it loses its power.
That's basically it. It desensitizes you.
Yeah.
And sometimes rejection just redirects you. There's a story about a research intern who got turned down for one position.
Yeah.
And was initially bummed, but then ended up finding an even better opportunity that was a much better fit. Sometimes one door closing really does push you towards a better one.
That's a great perspective. And that study with teenagers who had social anxiety is fascinating.
The Gozen report.
Yeah. They found that the teens who were encouraged to deliberately seek out small potential rejections, like asking a stranger for the time or asking for a small discount they probably wouldn't get, actually boosted their social confidence by around 30% just by facing the fear.
It seems that facing those little no's helps us internalize that it's usually not that bad, it's not the end of the world, and it makes us less afraid of it in bigger situations.
So a practical way to try this, if you're feeling brave, is to do a mini rejection challenge.
Okay.
Make one small request each day where a no is possible or even likely, something you're not too emotionally invested in. Just to practice hearing no and realizing you survive builds tolerance.
Interesting exercise. Maybe start small.
Definitely start small. Okay, so to kind of wrap this all up with some concrete steps you can take starting today, our sources offer a few key themes. One is doing daily micro-adjustments.
Right. This is super simple. Take just 3 minutes each day. Jot down a small challenge you faced, maybe some negative feedback or a minor rejection. And then just write down one positive or constructive way you could respond to it or what you learned from it. It's a tiny daily habit, but doing it consistently can really shift your default mindset over time.
I like that. Micro habits. Another really important point is actively cultivating a strong, positive social circle.
Huge. We mentioned that study showing how good social support really buffers the negative impact of rejection.
Yeah, from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology.
So it's not just about having friends. It's about intentionally connecting with those people who are genuinely supportive, positive influences in your life. Make time for them.
Quality over quantity, maybe.
Definitely. And finally, always try to keep your eye on your long-term goals.
The bigger picture.
Exactly. When you see rejections or setbacks as just temporary bumps on the road towards something bigger that you really care about, they just don't sting as much. They feel less like failures and more like detours or learning experiences on the journey.
Like that author who faced tons of rejections but kept going because they saw each no as just another step, another chance to learn, eventually leading to that yes.
That's the mindset. Persistence fueled by purpose.
Now, let's just zoom out for a second. How does all this stuff, inner strength, mindset shifts, relate to the world we're actually living in? Especially here in the US and over in Europe, too. It feels like everyone's constantly stressed, high-pressure environments.
You're absolutely right to connect it to that context. The stats are pretty sobering, aren't they?
Yeah, I saw some numbers from the American Psychological Association. Huge percentages of people reporting work-related stress. It's affecting well-being, motivation.
And it's definitely not just a U.S. problem. Surveys in Europe show similar trends, with a significant number of workers reporting feeling burnt out or at high risk for mental health issues. It's a widespread challenge.
And there are differences too, right? Like, I think I saw that women often report higher stress levels, and younger generations seem particularly hit hard by work stress these days.
Yeah, those patterns show up in the data.
Yeah.
Different groups experience these pressures differently, but the overall trend is concerning.
So all of this just underscores how vital it is to learn these skills we've been discussing. Understanding our emotions, learning to shift perspective, building that inner strength. It's not just nice to have anymore.
It really feels like a necessity, doesn't it, for navigating the demands of modern life and work without getting completely overwhelmed.
Definitely. So maybe we can quickly touch on a few more strategies from our sources for that resilience toolbox.
Sure. One big one is really knowing your core values.
Your values. How does that help with rejection?
When you have a clear sense of what's genuinely important to you, what your principles are, what you're ultimately striving for, it builds this inner confidence. It becomes easier to filter external events, including rejection or criticism. You can ask yourself, okay, does this comment or setback really affect my core goals or values? Often the answer is no.
Ah, okay. It gives you an anchor, so you're not just blown around by every opinion.
Exactly. It's about having your own internal compass, which connects to another point, the importance of thinking for yourself. Really taking a moment to consider the motives or the context behind someone else's opinion or behavior instead of just instantly absorbing it as truth.
Right. Questioning the source or their potential biases.
And like we said, practice is key. Spending just 5 or 10 minutes daily reflecting on your goals, your strengths, what you're grateful for, it really does strengthen that inner core over time.
And reframing frustration is another technique.
Yeah. When you hit a roadblock and feel that frustration rising, consciously pause and ask yourself, okay, what's the potential positive meaning here? What can I possibly learn from this?
So if you get rejected for a job, instead of just, this sucks, it's okay, what did this interview process teach me about what skills I need to highlight next time? Or maybe this wasn't the right fit anyway, what's the next opportunity?
Exactly. Immediately shifting focus to learning and the next step.
And managing those intense emotions when they do hit. Mindfulness came up again.
Yes, even simple breathing exercises, like breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4, and breathing out for 6. Just doing that a few times can physically calm your nervous system down in a stressful moment.
That's practical. And focusing on what you can control versus what you can't.
Crucial. Pouring energy into worrying about things outside your influence is draining. Focus on your actions, your responses, your effort. That's where your power lies. Keeping an emotional diary can help identify patterns here too.
Our sources also made a really important distinction between acceptance and just giving up.
Yes, acceptance isn't passive resignation. It's not saying, oh, well, guess things are just terrible. It's about acknowledging the reality of the situation, okay? This is difficult right now, and then focusing your energy on finding solutions, adapting, or moving forward from that point of reality.
It's an active process.
Very active. And part of that is letting go of rigid attachments, attachment to specific outcomes, attachment to everyone liking you. Focus on the areas where you can grow and make a difference.
And telling yourself, okay, things might be tough now, but it's likely temporary. I can start from here and find a better way.
That self-compassion and forward-looking perspective is key. And underneath all of this, really, is cultivating that growth mindset.
Believing change is possible.
Believing you can change, learn, and improve through effort and experience. Setting small, achievable goals helps build that belief. Reading stories about people overcoming setbacks, learning about growth mindset itself.
Building that supportive network we talked about.
And knowing it's okay to seek professional help, like counseling, if you're really struggling.
Absolutely. And taking small actions consistently. Replacing negative self-talk with more balanced or positive thoughts. Tracking your progress, maybe in a journal or app.
Even mentally rehearsing or simulating how you'll handle potential rejection can help you feel more prepared and less reactive when it happens.
Right. So that post-rejection thought shift becomes more automatic. Okay, this is the first rejection, maybe only 23 more to go. Or this feedback shows my proposal needs more data.
And then, immediately, what's the action? Adjust the proposal, find new leads, seek advice from a mentor. Always moving forward.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive. The main message seems to be that true strength, this inner resilience we're talking about, it isn't about building walls or avoiding the tough stuff life throws at us.
Not at all. It's really about understanding how our own minds work, how we interpret things.
Learning to consciously adjust our perspective when we get knocked down.
And accepting that setbacks, even failures and rejections, are not just inevitable, but they're actually really important opportunities for growth. They're essential, really.
Yeah. So maybe the provocative thought to leave you all with today is this. The next time you face something negative, a rejection, some harsh criticism, instead of just reacting, try asking yourself a different question, like, is this happening to level me up somehow? Or should I actually record this failure, like write it down for my future successful self?
Ooh, I like that. Framing it for the future.
Or even, man, is this going to be a good opening story someday when I finally achieve my goal? Reframing it as part of the journey.
That completely changes the energy around it, doesn't it?
Totally. Because at the end of the day, you really can't always control other people's attitudes or what happens externally.
That's for sure.
But you absolutely 100% have the power to choose not to let them control your mood or derail your progress.
That's such a crucial point to remember. Your inner state is ultimately up to you.
It is. All right, that is our deep dive for today on building that inner strength and shifting that mindset. Hope you found it helpful.
Yeah, lots to think about there.
Definitely. If you enjoyed this conversation and want more insights like this, please be sure to subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Please do.
And hey, while you're at it, go check out our good buddy Micky's YouTube channel too. Always great stuff over there.
Definitely worth a look.
All right, everyone, until next time, keep flexing those mindset muscles. Take care.